Thank you so much, Owen, for having me. Thank you so much to all of you for spending some time with me on this lovely sunny afternoon, whereas I'm sure there's lots and lots we could all be doing. But it's a real pleasure to be here, and I love the Handmade Hour community. I was just saying to Owen, it's incredible how much engagement there is and how much support there is in the Handmade Hour community. So fantastic to be here. So in terms of a bit of housekeeping then, I'm asking everyone to be muted. So if you've not used Zoom before, then down in the bottom left hand corner you can see there's the option to mute yourself or to stop the video. You can have the video on if you like, or you can have your video off. Whichever you're most comfortable with, but we're going to basically be doing it as video off, audio off. And what I would like you to do is, if you've got any questions at all, if you could type them into the chat. So the chat, if you're on, depends where you are, if you're on a phone or if you're on a computer, but the chat's basically generally at the bottom, so you can click on that and then you'll be able to type a message in. There is a drop down, so you can either share with everyone in the meeting or just with me. It's preferable to share with everyone in the meeting, just because that way you can, you know, if you've got a question, then other people might be thinking a similar question. What I'm going to suggest that I do is I go through the presentation. It's about 25-30 minutes of me talking, and then at the end I'm going to come back and look at questions. In fact, just because of a bit of a idiosyncrasy about the way Zoom works is that when I'm sharing my screen with you, I can't actually see the chat very easily. So if you are writing a question in the chat and you're wondering why I'm not responding to it, then that's why. I think it's probably going to be easier to do questions at the end, and I will do my very best to go back through the chat. If we get to the end and we run out of time, then I am over on Instagram at Future Retail UK. I'm very happy for you to send me a DM if we get to the end and I didn't get a chance to answer your question. I will do my very best, but I am also going to try and keep it on time so we finish at 3 o'clock. So if finally found the chat, says Fiona. Hi Fiona from Ireland. Yeah, so I'm going to try and wrap it up by 3, and if you've got any, as I said, apologies in advance if we run out of time. I know with these that often people have questions, and then it can, towards the end I start speeding up and talking faster and faster trying to answer them all, but I still can't always get it done. But yes, over at Instagram at Future Retail UK. You're also welcome, if you're watching this on the replay or you're watching this right now, do share a screenshot of you watching it, and I love to see where people are watching from, or send me a DM afterwards and tell me your top takeaway. I'm always up for a chat. Right, let me share my screen without further ado. So what we're going to do today is talk about growing your online sales, and specifically I'm going to be talking to anybody who would normally be selling maybe in person at events. Maybe your events have been cancelled, maybe you're feeling concerned about the run up to Christmas and what's going to happen there. So we're going to be talking specifically about online selling. Next up, housekeeping, which we've already covered. So this is just a quick run through of some of the key points. If you're in the right place, if you don't have much budget but you want to drive sales, maybe you find it hard to get clear on your messaging, you don't know what you don't know, so you feel like you're on a steep learning curve, you struggle to know what to say when you're posting, you're not clear if you're doing the right thing, if you'd like to understand how to cut through the noise online and would like to see more traction for the time that you do put in. So these are all really, if any of these sound familiar, then, and I'd love to know, you can pop into the chat if any of this sounds familiar, but you are not alone. I talk to a lot of different product businesses, and I would say that these are some of the most common issues that people struggle with when it comes to selling online. Just a quick pointer, I'm sure this doesn't apply to anyone, but if you're looking for a kind of get rich quick one size fits all method, which I'm sure by now you've all figured out doesn't really exist for product businesses, if you're not really interested in trial and error or being determined and persevering, and if you don't care about your products or your customers, but again, that is the beautiful thing about this community and about creative product businesses in general, people really do care about all of those things. A little bit about me, who I am. Just so you know why I'm even having this conversation with you, this is me. This is my extremely ancient cat, Knit, who is 19 years old and still going strong. I'm the founder of the Resilient Retail Club. You can find out more about that at resilientretail.com. I've got 20 years experience in the retail industry. I've worked everywhere from Paperchase. I was there for about 3 years running their art and stationery departments. I've worked for a variety of different high street retailers. And for the last 2.5 years, I've been working for myself. And I now work exclusively with independent brands and retailers to manage their stock and build long-lasting businesses. So, first question, why even be bothered about selling online? Why do we even need to consider the online selling portion? Well, online selling has been becoming a bigger and bigger piece of the retail business as time has gone by. Now, in case you're wondering, are you really part of the retail industry? Retail is a funny word. When I use it, sometimes people think I'm talking about shops. In my book, retail, in fact, if you check the dictionary definition, it is buying and selling things. So that when I talk about the retail industry, I really believe that everything that you do, all of your products that you sell do make up part of the retail industry. In fact, my feeling is a lot of the time when we hear the stories about the retail industry in trouble, we're talking about big legacy retailers, which have got a lot of issues. And I actually think a lot of the innovation and the exciting stuff that's happening in the industry is happening in the independent small business sector. So, sorry, that was my slight soapbox moment on the retail industry. But, you know, why sell online? Well, before lockdown happened, the UK has the highest penetration of online sales in the world. That means the highest percentage of all money being spent in retail is spent online as compared to other countries. The UK is uniquely placed because we've got really well developed infrastructure. We've got a very computer literate population. And as a result, before lockdown, we were tracking somewhere around 24% of all sales, all money spent on retail was happening online. Then lockdown happened and that number went straight to over a third. So around 34% of all sales were then taking place online. So you can see that this growth curve, which has been going like this for a long time, suddenly just shot up to over a third of all sales happening online. And the question is, will it continue that way? Is it, you know, is this a one-way thing? We have seen as shops have started reopening, that number has decreased slightly, but a lot of analysts are predicting that this sort of trend towards purchasing online is only going to continue, and it's going to have been accelerated by COVID-19. So then in terms of what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about, in terms of selling online, some of the things that you need to think about. We're going to talk about who your ideal customer is, where you could sell versus where you should be selling. We're going to be also covering how you can persuade your ideal customer to buy. And that's going to be things like driving traffic to your site, making the most of that traffic. And also, for those of you who are used to selling in person, then we're going to be talking about how you can use that knowledge to really turbocharge your online sales, and why I believe the two are really very deeply interconnected. So first thing then, how do you actually find your ideal customer? So people often say, you know, I want to grow my sales, and I say, are you clear about your customer? And a lot of people maybe aren't clear, and then sometimes they say to me, well, how's that related to, how does that relate to actually growing my sales? But I really believe you have to know who you're talking to. So it's very important that you've done some work to narrow your customer down. So if you say, well, it's women aged 20 to 40 who you know, love shopping, for example, that's pretty broad. You actually want to make it really nice and niche, and part of the reason for that is because it helps you to understand what they're interested in, which platforms, social media platforms they would be on, which TV shows they might watch, what magazines they might read, what other accounts they might follow. Because once you start understanding that, you can start understanding who else owns your customer. So that is all about collaboration opportunities. So for example, I often use this, but you know, imagine if you had an organic cotton baby wear company, then you might want to collaborate with somebody who has an organic baby skincare range, because your customer, who is, if you've again done your work and worked out that it's parents who really care about the environment and care about what they put on their baby's skin, then immediately you can start seeing who else would own those customers. So a skincare brand would be the perfect fit for that. So it helps you start identifying those collaboration opportunities. I mean, there is a sort of truth about online selling that really it's about working out where your customer is and going and putting yourself there in whatever form that takes. And it also means that once you've identified your customer, you can spend some time trying to understand them. So you can do active listening, which is basically, you know, also known as internet stalking. But, you know, that's going and hanging out where they are, the other accounts they might be in, spending time with them, looking at what they're talking about, looking at the other accounts that they're active on. What do they say? Are they saying that they love this product? Why are they saying they love the product? Are they saying they've got a problem with it? Why have they got a problem with it? So once you start identifying where your customer is, you can start going and spending time where they are, listening to them and understanding them. Okay, bear with me. If somebody's not muted, sorry everyone, I'm just wondering if I can have a look. Yes, if to bottom left, if somebody's unmuted and wants to mute themselves, then look down in the bottom left and you should be able to see the little icon, and you should just be able to click it and it will mute you. Okay, so where could you sell versus where should you sell? So the second point to think about when you're selling online is find out where your customer is, put yourself there. So this could include, again, social media platforms, virtual events, marketplaces, but I would always suggest that you have your own website. The question you should always ask yourself when it comes to participating in something like a social media platform, events or marketplaces, is you working out, is your customer also there? So if you've got the opportunity to join a marketplace, then you would want to make sure that you believe your ideal customer is also on that marketplace. Right, just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to see. Mute all. Mute all. Okay, right. I think I've muted everybody now. So the one thing though I would really stress is that it's important to always have your own website. So the reason for that is that you're not in the business of making sales, you are in the business of acquiring customers. So within my membership, I've got a couple of courses about growing your sales, and one of the things that I really emphasize is that you're talking about moving people through a journey with you, so they go from being unaware of you to becoming aware, to becoming interested, to buying, and then you want them to become repeat buyers and eventually your super fans. So your super fans are the people who will go out there and shout about your business from the rooftops. So a lot of the growth, of real profitable sales growth in your business, comes from when you can get more out of the people who've already bought from you. So there's nobody more likely to buy from you in this world than someone who's already bought from you. So that's really about owning that relationship. If you've had somebody who's purchased from you, and you've got your own website, you've got that relationship, you own their email address, for example, and you can market to them again. If you build your entire business off a marketplace, for example, Etsy, which, you know, Etsy is a wonderful organization and a real great platform for small businesses, but Etsy owns that customer. You don't own the customer. So over time, so you have to then focus on always getting more new customers to come to you on Etsy. Whereas if you've got your own website, you can not only set out everything in terms of the exact experience you want your customer to have from the moment that they land on it to the moment that they purchase and check out, but you also then take on the ownership of that customer relationship, which, as I said, is one of the real ways that you can profitably grow your sales, is through really focusing on the customers who've already purchased from you and encouraging them to purchase again. So in terms of your own website then versus a marketplace, I always think of it as a bit of a continuum. So your own the marketplace has got lots and lots of traffic, but you don't have much control over the customer experience. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've got your own website, which doesn't have much traffic unless you drive it, or it doesn't have any traffic unless you drive it there. But then at the same time, you've got that complete control. You completely control every single element of the customer experience. Plus you then take on ownership of that customer. So when you're thinking about selling online, there's nothing wrong, for example, to start out on Etsy or to trial things on Etsy or any other marketplace. But I would always, always stress that you should have your own website. So then let's talk about driving traffic to your website. This is probably, you know, a sort of 6-week course in itself, but just to kind of really highlight what I want you to take away from this is that it is difficult when you have to drive your own traffic, for sure. It's one of the toughest things to do in terms of building that kind of momentum in your business. But it's something that works really, really well if you have got a multi-pronged approach. So if you can see on this slide, there's actually 7 different ways that you can drive traffic to your website. And where a lot of people struggle is that they get really, really focused on one method of driving traffic. So for example, they get really focused on social media, whereas social media is, again, a really excellent tool, but it is one tool in your toolkit as opposed to the entirety of your traffic driving strategy. So one of the things that I suggest very strongly for anybody who wants to build an online, you know, healthy online business is that you look into all of the different ways that you might drive traffic to your website. Search engine optimization is a really critical part. SEO, it's very technical. I'm definitely not going to pretend to be an expert in it because I'm not, but it's one of those things that you need to work out how you're going to make it work for your business. Are you going to teach yourself it? Are you going to pay someone to help you with it? Are you going to go for a middle ground like a plugin or a service that you can pay to highlight areas where you need to do work on your search engine optimization? 50% of all purchases that happen online actually happened through somebody searching in Google for something. So that means that they searched, you know, red watering can, and then they looked at all the listings of the red watering cans. So that's half of all sales that happen online are happening because somebody's searching. So for you as a small business, you want to make sure that you've done what you can to make sure that your business is optimized for those searches. Now, again, you're not going to be able to compete with the biggest brands out there. If you try and compete on, say, candles, that might not work. But if you've got a niche, you know, fantasy candles, for example, or zodiac candles, or candles for men, or whatever your niche is, you want to make sure that you're going to pop up in those searches. Content marketing often feeds into SEO. So content marketing is around writing blogs, sending emails as well, for example. Your email newsletter you could see as a form of content or a complementary to your blog writing. Blog writing is great because it's new content onto your website, which Google really likes. You can also start pitching your blog posts quite specifically so that you can talk about a subject and your customer can really understand your point of view and really start getting to know you. Social media, we've already touched on. It is a really important way of driving sales. Generally speaking, social media traffic as well, we tend to think about all traffic as being equal, but generally speaking, social media traffic tends to be lower converting. It tends to convert at around 0.8% as compared to 2% for the industry average, because people tend to be in a social mood when they're on social media. So they're scrolling through and they say, oh, I like this necklace, oh, that's so nice. And maybe they go take a look at it on your site and maybe they don't, but they're kind of in that, you know, oh, I wonder how Kevin's new baby is, or I wonder how that wedding went in Italy. I wonder if they, you know, wonder how my relatives are. Oh, and they're looking at those pictures and then they see your product and it's kind of interspersed. So they tend to be in a slightly more distracted sort of place when it comes to social media. So again, when I talk to people who are kind of exhausted by selling online or finding very low conversion rates, often what I find is the only tool that they've used in this whole toolkit is social media, which means they've been driving some traffic, but it's all been really low converting traffic. So that's why, again, I really stress the importance of thinking about all of the different elements when it comes to driving traffic. PR, whether that is being featured in, or skip one, I'll come back to email marketing. So PR, so getting your products into magazines or into gift guides, for example. This is like sowing a lot of seeds. It's lots of small seeds you may not see. I mean, sometimes I do have clients whose businesses have been transformed by this one piece of amazing PR, but it's the exception rather than the norm. Usually what PR means is that over time people just get more familiar with your brand and they start seeing it more and more, and so therefore it's kind of a longer term strategy. So email marketing, I feel very passionately about email marketing because I think it's very overlooked by a lot of people. So your email marketing is basically talking directly to your most engaged followers, the people who've either bought from you already or have liked you enough to give you their email address. So email marketing, it really helps you maximize the efficiency of your business. If you think about it, you're capturing those customers through sales or through when they sign up for your website. Now you can talk to them directly. They're a super warm part of your audience. You're much more likely to get results out of them. And indeed, email traffic, people who come to you via an email that you sent them, will convert 5 times higher than people who come to you from social media. So again, if you were to take nothing else away from this today, I would say think about your email marketing, because it's one really, really important part of a long-term strategy for a successful online selling business. Collaborations, big fan of these. Love it when you can collaborate with other businesses. If you do it at the point where it's a business a similar size to you, then it feels more like it's on an even footing. It's not like they're doing you a massively big favor. It's more to do with you're collaborating with each other and it's mutually beneficial. I think collaborations are fabulous because they give you the ability to get in front of somebody else's audience, but you know that they should also be, if you picked your collaborations carefully, they'll also be your ideal customer as well. Basically, I heard somewhere what it boils down to is, when it comes to building your audience, you can build it yourself, you can borrow it, like through collaborations, or you can buy it, which is the last note on here, the paid traffic. So those are your options: build, borrow, buy. Big fan of the borrow, because I think that can work really well for you to get in front of other people. And if you're really small and you've got 30 followers and they've got 30 followers, still worth doing a collaboration, because you might end up with 35 and they'd end up with 35, and you do that enough over time and that's how you grow. I don't think you have to feel like you have to wait until you're a certain size before you can collaborate, because there's always going to be somebody who's around the same size as you. Paid traffic then, just to again bring that into the mix. If you think about a big retailer like an M&S or a Debenhams, they're doing all of these. They're doing every single element. They've got an SEO strategy, content marketing strategy, social media, email, PR, they collaborate, and they use paid traffic for sure. So paid traffic is definitely part of a larger business. I have 2 words of caution with paid traffic, 3 words of caution with paid traffic. Number 1, wait until you are getting really good engagement organically with your business before you start using paid traffic, because it's like a megaphone. Whatever you say, whatever you pay to say, is like you're saying it louder. But if what you're saying isn't right in the first place, then it doesn't matter how loud you say it. So make sure what you're saying is right before you start paying to say it louder. Point number 2 is that it is something you need to do strategically, which means you either have to take a course to learn how to do it properly, or you have to pay someone to manage it for you. Because if you are boosting posts sort of here, there and everywhere, it's generally not a great, you're not doing it strategically, basically. And point number 3 is just make sure you've got enough money in your business, enough profit in your every sale that you make to cover the cost of advertising, because you obviously you make more money than you pay out, but then you have to cover the costs of the actual ad spend. So those are my 3 points then about paid traffic. Do it, make sure you've got the message right before you do it, make sure you do it strategically, and make sure you're still making enough money even after you've paid for ads. Okay. Instagram is not a sales strategy. That's just my 2 cents. Just because honestly, it's something, and I say that with so much appreciation for what an amazing tool Instagram is, But if you are feeling exhausted, if you feel like you're not getting quite as much traction as you would like to have from your Instagram strategy, it's probably because it's not got all of the other elements. It's not got the sort of the 7 different ways that you're driving traffic. You're only doing it through Instagram, which is a very poor converting traffic, generally speaking. Okay, so now what do you do when you've got people? Make the most of them. So again, we often focus very much on, I only want more, you know, I often say to people, you know, what would make the difference in your business? And people say to me, oh, I want more followers. Or they say, I want more visitors to my website. So basically that, I want more eyes on my business. And I think that is obviously really important. And it's very important that you have this sort of stream of fresh eyes on your business, and you do look to keep growing your following. However, what I would say is don't ever forget that if you could convert twice as many of your visitors when they hit your website, you would double your sales even if your website traffic remained the same. So you would do the same amount of work to drive people to your website, but if you converted them at twice the rate that you were doing currently, then you would double your sales. So don't only think about the top of the funnel, don't only think about getting more eyes, think about, okay, well, is my website as good as it could be? So when I say think above the fold, if you imagine a newspaper, don't have one here, let's see, I've got a piece of paper. So you've got your piece of paper. If this is a newspaper, this bit here is called above the fold. So this is the headline, this is the lead picture, this is everything else. On your website, that's what the equivalent is what people see as soon as the website loads before they've scrolled anywhere. You need to check what that looks like on mobile versus what it looks like on your desktop. But basically that there is the most important part of your website, because it's what people see, and you have split seconds before people make a decision whether or not they bounce off. So make sure you put your best foot forward. And by best foot forward, that means, what are people, of everything that you've got on your website, what are people most likely to be looking for right now? Now, if you've got a seasonal business, then that's going to follow the seasons. So on Valentine's Day, they're most likely to be looking for Valentine's product. In the run up to Mother's Day, they'll most likely be looking for a Mother's Day gift. It's not saying that you've got to get it right. It's not like every single person who lands there is going to be looking for that item, but you've got to think about, what are they most likely, out of everything on my whole website, what are they most likely to be looking for right now? If you don't have anything in particular going on, because it's not your non-seasonal, or because you're kind of in between seasons, then it's your best sellers. So whatever you normally sell the most of at that particular time of year, that's what you want on above the fold. You want that there. I've seen some very nice, lovely websites that I've landed on, and they have, you know, a picture of a flower, a beautiful flower. And you think, well, okay, that's great if you're a flower shop. But, you know, this should be product. This is your front table in a shop. You know, if you were walking into a shop, there's the front table where the products are. You wouldn't fill them with flowers unless you were selling the flowers. You know, you might have some flowers around the shop for nice visual merchandising, but you know, this is prime selling space, and it's the same on your website. You also want to reduce friction. That's all about just making it as easy as possible for people to buy. So if you've got your bestseller, can you click on that photo? If you've got a photo of your bestseller on your homepage, can you click on that and immediately go through to purchase it? If you're using something like Shopify, it's optimized to remove friction. So you're probably going to be absolutely fine, but just make sure there's nothing that stops people purchasing. So do you ask them to create a login, for example, before they check out? All of that kind of stuff will hold them up. The ultimate frictionless purchase is Amazon One Click, where if you set it up correctly, you can see an item, click on it, or swipe on your phone, and you've purchased it. They reckon that feature alone probably generated billions and billions of dollars for Amazon, because they made it completely frictionless. So think about your own website. Do you, for example, have collections? They have to go into collections, and then there's a landing page, and then from there they go into another page. You know, anytime you can reduce the number of clicks it takes for them to go from your homepage to checking out, then that's a good thing. The other option, just going back to email marketing, is make sure you've got some way of getting their email, whether it's a pop-up, preferably a pop-up, to be honest. I know that they're not exactly well loved, but they are effective, and they're still effective. And if you capture emails, then even if you figure, even on a well-working website, only 2% of people who come are going to buy, 98% of people are going to bounce away. Whereas even if 1% or 2% of those people signed up to your email list, you would have a chance to remarket to them again, as opposed to them disappearing off into the ether. And then just want to talk a little bit about know, like, and trust. So this is really about thinking, so when we think about everything that you do in your business, is this what you're building? So this is what you need in order for people to buy from you. So we've talked about some of the mechanics. You've got to get them to your website. You've got to get your website set up so that they can purchase from you. But ultimately, people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. So when you're thinking about how you're going to persuade your ideal customer to buy, remember that people buy from people. So again, if you find it tough selling online, ask yourself, are you offering the right mix of messages for people to buy from you? Are you offering them some information to prove that you're an authority in your sector, so then that they trust you? Are you showing them a bit of your personality, a bit of behind the scenes, so that they can get to know you and like you? This is all really useful information, whether it's product information or information about you, or a way for you to connect with your customer over shared values and shared stories. So I talk a lot about, in the courses that I have in the membership, about connect, value, sell. So that's 3 types of messaging. 40% of the time you want to be connecting messaging, and this can work across emails, social media, however it works, but 40% of the time you want messages that connect with your ideal customer. So that could be, you share a story about yourself, you share a story about why you started your business, about how you came up with the ideas for your products. You talk to your customer about your beliefs, about your business ideas. You ask them questions. So 40% of the time you want to be trying to build a connection with your ideal customer over shared experiences. 40% of the time you want to be offering them value. So that means you are giving them information that they can use, whether it's as simple as something like a motivational quote could be seen as value, but also information about how do you care for your items, a gift guide, gift ideas, anything that would be useful to your ideal customer. And then 20% of the time needs to be a selling. So you need to actually ask them for the sale. So 20% of the time you say to them, this is what's available, this is how you get it, this is how much it is, come to my website, buy now. So often what I see is there's one of 2 things that happens. Either people are full of connection and value, which is lovely, so they make real great connections with the customers, and they don't ask for the sale, so the customer's never quite sure what they want from them, so they kind of, you know, go along and they answer the questions, but there's no sort of direct call to action saying make sure you come and buy. And then the other thing, sometimes what I see is it's all sales messages. So there's just buy this, buy this, buy this, and then there's not an awful lot about the connection and the value. So people don't really feel like they've got to know you, or they've got to know the business. So these are all things that are really important ingredients, particularly when it comes to selling online. And how is that different from selling in person? Because another thing that I hear, and I don't know if it resonates with any of you watching, is that people often tell me, well, I don't have a problem when I'm selling in person. When I'm, you know, put me in front of the customers, that's when I do really well. I've done courses of free 5-day challenges before, and one of the things in one of the exercises I ask people to do is to look back at the sales from the previous year and really understand where their sales came from. And a lot of the time people will say to me, well, actually, when I look at it, I only really sell when I'm selling in person. But I really struggle to apply that or to translate that to my online sales. But I would say is that keep it going back to that know, like, and trust. It's very quick and easy to build know, like, and trust in person, because you are literally physically in front of them, so they can get a sense of you, a sense of you as a person. But it's the same thing online. It's actually not any different, but we often tend to kind of struggle to see how the 2 connect together. So here are a few pointers really about how you can apply the skills that you've learnt from selling in person and use them to sell online. First one is think about the stories. So if you've got an event, when you've got a market or a fair or any other kind of event, when people come up to your stall, what do you tell them? What do they ask and what do you tell them? You probably tell them who you are, you probably tell them about the products, you probably tell them how they're made, and you probably say that over and over again during the course of the day. And it's exactly the same thing online. You just have to say it repeatedly online. Show your passions, share the passion, the excitement. Often, you know, people will tell you this whole long story about their business and how they started it and why it's so important to them and how they pick the ingredients. And that kind of thing is absolute gold dust. So don't be afraid to show your passion and embrace the repetition. So a lot of people say to me, well, I posted something on Instagram and then nothing happened. But it's like, you know, if one person walked up to your stall and said, you know, and you told them your whole story and then they walked off and the next person came along, I don't think you wouldn't tell them the same thing, because you'd be like, right, it's a new conversation. So you must think about that, embrace that repetition. You can say the same thing over and over again, and you can use those stories you would tell in person to tell online. The other thing to think about is how can you replicate the experience of touching your products? And it's one of the reasons that I think probably it's unlikely that we'll ever get to a point where everything's purchased online, because people do love to touch and feel. So when you're selling online, think about that. Think about how powerful it is for you and your customer. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a sip. When your customer can actually see your products, you can really communicate to them the quality, they can feel the weight of it. So you have to think about how you can replicate that situation online. So this is a old paper chase pen. So again, if you've just got a photograph of this, you possibly couldn't really see that much about the detail. But if you had it in person, you could feel the weight of it. You could see the fact that it's got this rather fetching snake design on the top. You could just understand more about it. You'd see what color ink it wrote in, all kinds of things. So when you're selling online, think about how can you bridge the gap between the customers, basically try and replicate that experience. And that comes down to several things. Think about their senses. Think about, can you describe the way it feels when you pick it up? Can you show it in your hand, so to give a sense of scale? Can you make sure you can see the bottom of it? Because, you know, people always pick stuff up and turn it over. Can you show how it works? Do a little video of how you turn it on and make it click. I just realized it's going to go off now. That wasn't too smart. It's going to tick away now. But yeah, there's just so much you can do. So think about when you're selling online and think about replicating that experience for them. Think about, can you describe how it smells? And if it's food or drink, how it tastes. You know, really think about all of those senses, because that's what your customer's missing when you're selling online. They're missing that ability to actually touch and feel things. So you've got to do your best as a business owner to bridge that gap for them and really explain the product to them in as many words as possible. Which brings me on to video, because ultimately there's no easier way to do this than video. You know, I would need probably 50 photos of this to really give you the same understanding as a video of me showing it to you. So think about that. If you are absolutely filled with horror at the idea of video, then I think to an extent you do have to ask yourself which you're more committed to, never being on video or growing your business, which sounds like a really harsh thing to say, but I think it's just, to be honest, personally, I ended up doing video in my business because I wanted to grow the business more than I wanted to not be on video, if that makes sense. And now I'm used to it. I'm just used to it. It's one of those things I think you do just get used to. And then also you can also have videos where you just show your hands or your voice, which still has a sense of you in it, but it doesn't have to have your face if that's something that you just find completely unbearable. So before we move on to questions, just really to conclude then, that growing your sales requires knowing who your customer is, selling where they are, using a variety of methods together to grow your sales, and to really look at acquiring customers, not sales, and building that trust with them. Just a little bit more about me quickly. This is my Resilient Retail Club before I take questions. As I said, it is a membership that I have, and I can certainly send you more details. Otherwise, as I said, I'm at Future Retail UK on Instagram if you want to take a look there. But right, let me stop this and let's see. Right. Let's see, questions. Thank you, everyone. I know that was a bit of a long one. So many fantastic different businesses here. I love it. Okay. We'll be able to view this again later. Yes, I believe Owen's sending it out. I can also, Owen, I can send you the slides as well if that would be helpful to everyone.
That'd be great, yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, fantastic. Everyone's introducing themselves. Sorry, we'll get down to the... Don't say you failed, you just haven't had success. I love that. Haven't succeeded yet. I love this. Right, okay. Someone's writing everything down and eating their lunch at the same time. Love it. Listening, we're trying to paint their house of virtual markets. Excellent. I have my own URL but sell on Etsy. Yes. Just thought it gives me a bigger audience of people looking for gifts. I think you can definitely have both. As I said, Etsy, it does work really, really well. But if you think about this thought about getting people to come back and buy from you on a multiple basis, kind of an ideal situation would be that you've got Etsy and you've got your own website. And over time, you would want your own website to end up being bigger than Etsy. But if you started off at Etsy, you know, Etsy's brilliant for getting started, 100%. And I know lots of people who've got multiple revenue streams. So they might wholesale and they sell on Etsy and they sell not on the high street and they have their own website. If you've got the capacity to manage all of those platforms, I'd say go for it. But I would just say don't forget that ultimately you always want to have your own website. You always want to be driving people there. Is it a good idea to set up an independent website but utilize the one on the Etsy platform, which then directs customers to make the purchase from my Etsy shop? So yes, that is something that I've seen people do. That again, it comes down to, Amanda, if I were to do that, I would try and have as much as possible, I would have something on your website that was trying to capture their email address before they go to Etsy. So obviously, one thing that people do a lot of the time to get people to sign up to their newsletters is a discount, you know, 10% off to newsletter subscribers. I've had this conversation so many times with people. I'm a big fan of thinking of something a little bit more creative than that, because I think, for example, if you were a travel accessories brand, you could give them the opportunity to download a travel planner checklist, for example, in return for their email list. I think that's a nicer place to start than a discount. But I also recognize lots of people have said to me, you know what, Catherine, the discount just works. So, you know, if the discount works, use the discount. So if you were then to be sending them off to Etsy, I would want to try and get that email from them before they go to Etsy, because Etsy, you can't market. You can't send an email newsletter to a customer that's come to you via Etsy. Because Etsy, understandably, want to make sure that they keep the relationship with the customer, right? You know, Etsy want to own that customer. That's why you're playing on Etsy's playground, if that makes sense. SEO, search engine optimizations, yes. Ooh, with email marketing, where do we stand on GDPR? Yes, GDPR, thank you, Owen. It is a complex area. Information Commissioner's Office is a good starting point. Yes, I would say as well, I think personally, I think a lot of the email marketing tools that you might be using, whether that's MailChimp or Klaviyo or Flowdesk or whatever you're using, I think they've done, they do a pretty decent job of kind of explaining to you whether you need like a double opt-in or whether you know what kind of permissions you need to make sure you've got from people with GDPR. I know that it was a massive thing when GDPR first happened and it put a lot of people off email marketing. But I think there's a couple of things I would say is that a lot of it is, you're right, you should definitely, I always have to say, I'm not a legal expert, you always have to consult a legal expert. But ultimately, it's not as complicated as you think. Plenty of small businesses have managed to overcome or have put in place what's needed for GDPR. Secondly, nobody's going to go to GDPR prison. The worst that would happen was you'd be contacted by somebody who said, you know, we don't think you're compliant in this and this way, so therefore fix it. It's not like you would actually, you know, you risk jail time. And I have to say as well, a lot of the stuff that they're trying to stop with GDPR, a lot of small businesses don't do. I don't really know anyone who's purchased an email list or, you know, done sort of dodgy stuff to get emails, which is what they're really trying to stop. A lot of the time, if you're really clear with people about what they're signing up to, you follow all the steps, you ask them to double opt in to confirm that they want to be on your list, you're most likely going to be absolutely fine. Yeah, so there you go. MailChimp is a GDPR policy. Yes, exactly. Yes, yes, yes. What's a good website platform? In total, honestly, I should be sponsored by Shopify. Most people who I know who are on Shopify love it. Yes, Al's giving thumbs up. Most people I know who aren't on Shopify either secretly or openly wish they wish they weren't. So I would say Shopify. I know it's not the cheapest, but it works, and it goes all the way up to, I don't know if you guys know the dungaree brand Lucy and Yak, for example. I did some work with them. They're on Shopify. You know, they're probably getting close to being a £10 million business. You can go from Shopify from having no customers up to, oh, Gymshark's on Shopify as well, and they're a £100 million business. So yes, love it. No wonder my Kickstarter wore me out last month. I was only doing social media, little PR. Your front page, yes, your home page. Yep. What do you think about a pattern from Etsy to build a website? So pattern is where you build your own website, but it's not, you get to keep your emails. Is that right, Mel? Yes. Yes. Yeah. I think that's really how that relates to it. It's, you know, pattern from Etsy, they do have some very nice templates. It makes it look nice and easy. So yeah, I mean, that could be, I'm trying to think if I know many people who've done it. I think it's from what I've heard, it seems fine. Slides, good. Have the website with Squarespace, but not sure how to use the SEOs section. Yeah, I mean, as I said, SEO, I'm not an expert. There are definitely technical SEO experts out there, and there are people who have courses for SEO for small businesses that it's worth checking out if you're not really sure about it. It's one of those things that it's like a housekeeping task, and you just have to, the only reason I bring up SEO is because it's one of those things just to flag it, the importance of it, and you have to just work out in your business how that would work for you. Sorry, I was like, oh, I'm doing all right with questions, and then I just, so it says 21 new messages.
Yeah,
excellent.
Up.
Finding the confidence to start. Yes, I think sometimes, hi Liza, you know, I think you just have to do it, honestly. I can't, and it sounds very basic, but once you start, I mean, when I first started out, I remember when I first started to leave my job, I got this business advisor from the local council. They said, you know, you can go and talk to this guy. And I was so nervous about the whole thing. He was like, what is your business idea? And I said it so quietly. I was like, I want to help businesses. He's like, I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying. Like, I was just so nervous because you just never done it before. And now look at me, I'm just like, can't shut me up. Okay, I have a website and an Etsy shop, but I'm about to close my website. Should I keep it open and make no sales through it? But I make a lot of sales through Etsy. That's a really interesting one, Wendy. I mean, as I said, in an ideal world, and I'm not knocking Etsy because I do know people build their businesses on Etsy. I just think it's worth thinking about, is it because you put all your effort driving people to Etsy, for example? If you started driving people, well, I don't know. I think it's just, long term, you will be glad to have your own email list, you have your own website that you can send people to as well. Because also, you know, with Etsy, with anything, it's like, you know, the algorithm could change, they could change who they're promoting, they could insist everyone does the offsite ads. It's all kinds of different things that could happen with Etsy that just means that if you've got that backup, I think, you know, a more comfortable place to be would be, say, 50-50 between Etsy and your website. I appreciate that then it takes a lot more effort to drive that traffic, but I guess just think about where's the first place that you send people. Okay, so Etsy require you to have GDPR. Great. Shopify's fab. Okay, so Wix website, but plan to link it to my folksy shop. Yeah, so I've definitely seen that before, where people have a website and then they direct people to folksy or Etsy to complete. Again, I would just stress that think about getting those email addresses. Yes. Do I have an opinion on Squarespace? Yeah, I mean, Squarespace, I think it works fine. I mean, I do know people who run Squarespace, their shops through Squarespace. I think there's nothing wrong with it. I just think that the overall experience on Shopify is better, because also Shopify has the App Store, which you can just add on like a billion different things. Right, I think I did it. Did I do it?
Oh, I think one's just dropped in, hasn't it?
Squeezed in. Okay, I hadn't done a video live before lockdown. Found it truly connecting me to the public. Help make sales and getting resales. Yes, Joe. Woohoo! Love it. Yes, absolutely. I do think that it does. It just, if I'm looking at somebody's business, I always go and see if they've done a video, because I just feel like within 2 to 3 minutes of somebody not even that, like 20 seconds of somebody talking, I feel like you just immediately get more of a sense of who they are. So yes, Google Merchant Center's making my head spin. Oh, yikes. Okay, all right. Etsy, my portfolio site, don't let me have pop-ups. You can advertise your mailing list on social media. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey guys, did you know I have an email list? I'm about to send out an email with some fantastic stuff in it. Please DM me your email if you'd like to sign up. There's nothing wrong with that. Yes, fantastic. All right, I shall leave it there.
Awesome. Catherine, thank you so much. Thank you. It's been brilliant. I'm sure everybody's got so much out of this. As I say, yeah, thanks, Catherine. We'll get that PDF off you of the slides, if that's okay.
I'll send it right over.
We're going to pop an email out with a link to the recording and the PDF. So
excellent, wonderful.
Yeah, well, brilliant.
I've just said put my Insta handle in. Come say hi. Love to see people sharing, and DM me if you've had a question but feeling shy. That's fine too.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.